And welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here today. Today I'm joined in the studio by a man with an incredible story, and we're excited to go through the story over the next while together. I'd like to introduce you to Michael Murphy. His book is called Love Unfiltered. Michael, it's great to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you.
So we've got a lot to talk about. There's an amazing story of an undying love, a foundation, and a life mission now that you're on. I think the best thing to do is really just to start with this woman that grabbed your heart years ago and tell our audience a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was about 14 years ago. I met this beautiful young woman that came into my office to sell me some Hispanic television advertising for my business. And we had an instant connection, and through working together, we eventually fell in love, started a relationship, and 10 months into that relationship, I found a golf ball-sized tumor in her breast. And at the time, she was only 29 years old, and it was already stage 3 breast cancer. So we spent the next 9 years, she battled this disease. We eventually got married about 4 years after discovering this. And then, unfortunately, the cancer kept coming back. She kept fighting it. And finally, she succumbed to it in June of 2011.
So I've had some time to spend with you off camera last night and really learned about your love for this woman. It's unfathomable to me as an author and a business owner to understand what you've actually done, to start a foundation and to spend the rest of your life reliving those memories. What drives you? What made you do this?
You know, it's ironic, but one, her love transformed my life, my heart, and watching her be terminal for the last 7 months and detached from everything. Just transformed me and changed me. When you see this process, it's powerful to watch somebody dying, literally in front of you that you love so much. But a month after my wife was gone, a friend called me, and his sister-in-law had just been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And she was in Wyoming and didn't have very good insurance or much money, husband, resources, and they asked if I could help. And I was distraught over my wife's passing. I had nothing to do. And so I said, you know, I'll do what I can. And I took her to our oncologist and spent a lot of time with her, got to know her. And what I realized is, 1, she was a minority. 2, she had not very good insurance. 3, she had no resources. And I noticed how they talked over her head, they talked down to her. And it was a different treatment than we got, having resources, good insurance. My wife had a beautiful personality. And it just troubled me as I witnessed it. And 2 months later, we went back to our oncologist, and he said, you know, Amanda, the best protocol to extend your life are these 3 chemotherapies simultaneously. Unfortunately, your insurance will only pay for 1. And that floored me. I've never thought like this. You know, I've been blessed in my life. And when I saw this, I heard this, I just did what came naturally. Is I reached in my pocket and gave him a credit card and said, hey, you give her whatever she needs. Not knowing that would turn into a nonprofit foundation. Now we've helped hundreds of women that are below the poverty line, battling cancer, which is a very stressful event. They lose their job, they lose their benefits, and their expenses go up because they got to drive to the doctor, they got to eat different food. And so it's a terrible situation. They have bad insurance, no money, and they're ill. And so we step in and we just give them a Band-Aid, a financial Band-Aid, to go through the treatment so they can get back on their feet.
The foundation is called the Love for Margot Foundation. If people that see this video and learn about your platform in the future are interested in getting a hold of the foundation, they have somebody in their lives that's suffering with breast cancer, how do they get a hold of you guys?
Well, we have a website. It's www.loveformargot.com. And on there we have a grant application. And you just simply fill it out and you send it in to us. And if you fit our criteria, our geographic criteria and our financial and your illness, then we step in and we meet with you. We engage with you, and then we help you financially.
You're very humble to say we, but really this is self-funded. You've made millions in your life, and I've gotten a chance to know you now to know that it really isn't the forefront of your thought. But now all of a sudden, God's put this idea into your head to write a book.
Yeah.
And was super excited to hear that 100% of the proceeds from this book are going to the foundation. Even more so, it's a really great book.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's talk about this book.
Yeah, so this book is really my story growing up in an alcoholic home. I was a troubled youth. I was kicked out of the 8th grade, the 9th grade, the 10th grade. I was arrested half a dozen times, a half a dozen automobile accidents. I was a mess. And got married young, had a baby young, and I was still a mess. And finally, I couldn't take being a mess anymore. I was unemployed, living with my wife's parents and her 5 siblings and our 2-month-old daughter. And I looked in the mirror one day and I said, "You're a loser," which I was okay with. But then I realized everybody in this house knows you're a loser. And that was humiliating. And out of that humiliation, I'd done what I did my entire life. I ran away.
Right.
I took my stuff. I left my wife, my 2-month-old daughter, went and partied for a week, and then realized that was a mistake, and called up, said, "Hey, I'm ready to come home." And she said no. For the first time, someone said no to me. And I was forced to grow up. And I turned to the Catholic Church. I grew up Catholic, but I didn't believe. And I went to the steps of the Catholic Church and I said, "God, if you are God, if you really exist, then surely you have the power to become physical form, manifest, sit on these steps. I can see you, talk to you, then I can believe in you, and then I can change my life." So God showed up, and so nothing happened, of course, except the next day I ended up in a room of people that wanted to live a better life. And that was the beginning of my transformation to become a better person and live a better life. Then, by the grace of God, I met a man. A friend of mine said to me one day, "Hey, you're trying to get on the right track, but you're still a mess. I know this guy, maybe he can help you." So I go and see this guy, and he taught me how to write out an intention as if it were already real. And then he taught me how to put myself into a hypnotic state. And then we took my 6 intentions that we'd written over 6 weeks and recorded them in my voice on a cassette player. This is 1980s.
Wow.
And then I would listen to this cassette every morning, every night. And I mean, I couldn't rub 2 nickels together. I wasn't making any money. I didn't have an education. And within a year of all this, I'm making over $10,000 a month. I have a $1 million house. I have my own business. My wife and my daughter came back to me after being divorced and hating me for 4 years. Eventually got them back. And everything that I created, these intentions, wrote them out, listened to them every day and every night, everything happened. So he taught me this beautiful gift on how we can create anything we desire in life as long as we have a little bit of a plan.
So Unfiltered Love is the story about you and Margot and how she taught you to be?
It's really about how her love transformed me and how she taught me what's really important in life. And so I grew up in the West here thinking to be successful, I had to have a big house, I had to drive a nice car, I had to have nice clothes, good looking, the whole lie I bought into. And when you watch a 29-year-old woman fight breast cancer for 9 years and everything that goes with that, and then in the last 7 months, the doctor said, "Hey, if you do nothing, you have 6 weeks to live. And if you treat it, you have 6 months to live." And when you see someone make that decision, you see what they go through to fight for every extra second. Well, a lot of people are just throwing their lives away with alcohol and drugs and nonsense. And that's what this book is about. This book is about wherever you are in life, turning it around. And if you're on the right path, speeding it up. This book has something for everybody on how to become the best version of themselves, you know?
So in the thousands of books that I've read, I've realized that the greatest books I've read always leave me with a single thought that possesses me. And I think that's the same for all of the books that we've collectively read. What's the thought that people are going to be left with if they read Unfiltered Love?
That no matter where they are and what they're doing, they can do much better and live a much more fulfilling, purposeful life. And that was the lesson that I got, is that we're here to evolve spiritually. You know, we're in form right now in the material world, but in reality, we're spiritual entities. Our essence is limitless, unlimited potentiality, timeless. We're eternal, spiritual beings having a physical experience in the blink of an eye. And this is really about accomplishing whatever you want in life, but more importantly, contributing to humanity so that it can continue to evolve. Because I think humanity is in a precarious situation right now. And we need to realize that we need to love and serve one another for this to continue.
In our last minutes, I think it's really important that we share with the audience the story of the final, I guess, 2 months of her life, that hotel or that hospital room. And
Yeah.
she told you some very profound thoughts that have really possessed you.
Well, the Thursday before Memorial Day in 2011, and we'd moved back to Northern California, pretty much so my wife could say goodbye to everybody. And that particular morning, so we didn't have an oncologist in Northern California, we were looking for one. And that particular morning, she was having excruciating pain, and we had to rush her by ambulance to the hospital. And I'm frantically on the phone looking for an oncologist, and I finally find one. He says, Mike, I promise you I'll be there by 5 o'clock tonight. So he comes into the hospital room, and there's my wife on the bed, and her little oxygen thing, and her little bald head, and her parents who are from Peru, and her mother, her father, and her sister, and me. And for the first time in 7 months, it was just us, the 5 of us. Usually one of us is missing, or there's a kid, or there's a friend. And it was perfect, the way, the people that were there. And the doctor said, okay, what's the situation? Blah, blah, blah. Looks at her chart, blah, blah, blah. Says, you have end of life directive. I say, yes. He goes, no, I want to hear from her. So when you're talking about somebody, do you want to be resuscitated? I found him to be very kind, but very strong, but very honest and very real, in a real situation. And so my wife said yes. And he said, well, based on everything I see here, if I can't get you a certain chemotherapy by tomorrow, you will be dead by Saturday. And in my typical blunt fashion, I said, well, you better go find the medicine. And I just blurted out of my mouth. And so he was off to find it. And then it just left the 5 of us there after this, this amazing moment. And her mother said to her name is Margot, but her nickname is Goti. And to Goti, what is it you want from us for the rest of our lives? And I was frankly shocked by this question. And I'm already in a state of shock, but now I'm even more shocked.
This is her mother, having just heard the news that she's
her
going to
daughter could be dead by Saturday. And so my wife sat up and was the only one in the room not crying, and actually as if she were running a board of directors meeting for Chevron.
In the middle of all that pain.
Yes. And went to her mother and said, this is what I want for you, your father, sister, and came to me and she said, continue to be a good man. And so I wear on my wrist, I used to have a Rolex, a very expensive Rolex, and now I wear a 99-cent rubber thing that reminds me to be a good man. Wow. And so the foundation, and my wife had a brief moment. She was the most positive, amazing woman I've ever met in my whole life. But she had a brief moment where she said to me, under the influence of a lot of narcotics from the pain, that her life didn't mean anything. And I spent the next 2 days telling her why her life meant something. And so it thrills me now to see that women who are in terrible, difficult situations are being blessed by this wonderful woman that, gave her life to, so I could be enriched and make a difference in her name in this world.
Well, it seems like Margot is definitely alive and well in your spirit, and it's been a blessing to spend time with you. You know that this book is going to be a super success because millions of people are going to understand what the purpose of it is. What's in the future?
Well, that's exciting. I mean, we have the foundation, we have this book out, but I'm writing a love story because our relationship is a love story, modern day love story. And it's a memoir and it focuses on the last 7 months of her life when she was given the news, either 6 weeks or 6 months. What a choice. 6 weeks or 6 months. I often wonder what I would decide. And so focus on it, but with flashbacks of the moment we met, we knew we were meant for one another, and how we went through this amazing experience. And, Plato taught that we're one soul cut in half. And then we spend lifetimes looking for the other half to become complete again. And I really believe there may be some truth to that. I think we're meant to be with somebody. And when we have that special connection, then not only do we become the best version of ourselves, but that couple becomes the best version of ourselves and are able to serve the world and make it a little better place.
Wow. I've been here this afternoon with Michael Murphy, his book, Love Unfiltered, the first in a series of books dedicated to the Love from Margot Foundation. It's an incredible story. The book is an amazing book that you need to read.